speak on it. My name is Malik. As you can see on your screen, today is Friday, 1/22/21. A few things that happened since the last time we was here. One of the major things is that the fact we have a new president, vice president, and hopefully a new star. But before we get into all of that, let me sort of set the groundwork for this. Oh, yeah. Before we do, I'm going to just be what I am. This piece of paper in my hand, before we started with all this technology, this is how folks did it. They had it. I got a call from a friend the other day, damn near 50-year-old friend, and she said, I heard you on the TV, and I looked, and you had that piece of paper in your hand, you took it out your pocket. You don't have a tablet, you don't have a laptop, and it just looked so bad. I said, damn. We used to use the newspaper. And I was looking at something Dr. King was doing the other day. He took it out of his pocket too. That's just how you do it. This piece of paper on the table, it might not be what's fashionable. It might not look the way you think it should. But know this, those that are uncomfortable, yes, we do it the way we do it. But we do it in order to connect and to be clear. It's not because I'm becoming senile and I don't know what the hell me and Omari is doing that I have it in my hand. It ain't because I forgot nothing. It's because in order to keep the flow, like the preachers that I used to know, we call some of them manuscript preachers. My grandfather was not a manuscript preacher. He was a spirit preacher. But my uncle, his son, was a manuscript preacher. So he would have his manuscript. And sometimes they would lay it on the roster. And sometimes they would hold it up because they couldn't see too good. But the bottom line is, it's all the same as long as we're on the same page. I don't say that to diss the sister, but I do say it because I understand where she's coming from. And I understand some of you all look at the decor. And when you look at it, you dismiss it. So today you'll notice I even switched up on the glasses a little bit because she didn't say it, but I thought that might have been in her conversation. Dude, you're looking too thuggish because she asked me a question. She said, who is your audience? Damn, I ain't got no audience. Anybody that got cable TV in the Chicago area, regardless of what dial it is on your TV, can see it, but I'm not out here reaching. But I understood what I felt. And I felt that people were saying, she was saying, look, for some of us out here, we ain't, we the way you looking and the way you doing, we sophisticated people. You know what I'm saying? We really don't be feeling all that. So
share the details.
I'm the type of person I am, I thought about it, still thinking about it, still talking about it. I even told her I was going to bring the conversation up. I ain't talking the whole conversation. And she said, give me a break. Because she know me that long. And if she didn't know me so long, woo, it would have been a breakdown. But I'm treating her words to me as a pull-up. But I'm saying this because one thing you ought to know by now, all of the time I've been on CAN TV, I've tried to be consistent. I ain't here to try to stunt. I ain't here to try to fake. I'm here to bring forth some information, and most of the time to provoke thought. Most of the time to be sure that I'm not mimicking, being a parakeet to other folk. You understand? So I had to get that out because I need you to understand I'm projecting and I'm listening, I'm hearing, and I try to respond. But I also listen deep. So for those that might have been uncomfortable and are still uncomfortable, no, I have no apology for what you see. There would be many times I would go in my pocket and get a piece of paper. That's what I'm going to do. I will never sit here with a laptop. It's all on the phone and Omari already got it. You understand? So don't think just because I got a piece of paper. You think about them damn clips you see. And you know that those clips had to come from somewhere, and I got the clips on the piece of paper, and there's a whole bunch of them. So sometimes the Spirit will speak to me, and number 1 become number 10. So Omari need to be able to know what I'm talking about when the Spirit say, look here, we need to slide over. So I need to be able to say number 1 is now number 10. So Amara, the piece that I just gave you that ain't on the list, let's start with that because that'll show you how some Negroes are because they're going to be talking about Claiborne and Bush. Now I want you to think about how we are early in the game and here we go. What a sound.
House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn shared the details of a fascinating conversation that he had with former president and war criminal George W. Bush. And it had to do with the fact that Representative Clyburn decided to endorse Joe Biden in a critical moment during the Democratic primary. And that really did help Biden increase his numbers in the polls. And that was a turning point during the primaries. So as they witnessed President Joe Biden take the oath of office, Representative Clyburn said former Republican President George W. Bush lauded him as a savior for helping get Biden elected. Now, George Bush also allegedly said, you're the savior because if you had not nominated Joe Biden, we would not be having this transfer of power today. And what he's referring to, of course, is that if Bernie Sanders had been the Democratic nominee, then there's no way there'd be a transfer of power. Come on. So how do you interpret that statement, Waz?
There's just so much to unpack there. One, nobody asked you guys specifically to come out and call George Bush and his cronies, Dick Cheney, Rumsfeld, the rest of them, war criminals, which they are. We don't even ask that of you, to come out in the public square and shun these people and shame them for the horrific acts that they committed upon both this country, for the people that had to go out there and die and maim themselves and injure themselves mentally, emotionally, physically, on behalf of those 2 insane wars. We don't even ask you to do that. The least we ask you to do is to not come out and shine George Bush's shoes. Yes, I just said it. Clyburn is up there acting like a damn Tom, shining George Bush's shoes. For what? He want credit for what? No Republican would ever get up there and say, that one time I met, Jimmy Carter, it was great. That would never, ever freaking happen. Yet Clyburn is so proud of himself for what he did. He's willing to suck up to George Bush. That's disgusting, dude. In service of what? Being so proud that you took down Bernie Sanders and his crazy, scary agenda to help working and normal people. This is horrific.
Yeah, I mean, strong. What you just said is strong.
And I can say it because I'm black. I'm sorry. I would never.
No.
My thing. Here's my thing. I don't ever want to go against influential public black people in a public way, especially amongst, let's face it, non-blacks, right? Because it always gets used as ammunition to be like, look, even the black guy is saying it. Except in the cases that people are behaving in disgusting fashion. Like, this is just horrible. To cite George Bush as some reason why you should pat yourself on the back. This guy is the most destructive president of our lifetimes. Like, even more destructive than what Reagan did to poor minority communities during his reign, right? Like, this dude got millions of brown people killed in the Middle East and countless other American people maimed, killed, et cetera, as I previously mentioned. He's deplorable.
Yep.
That's the only thing you should be saying about George Bush in public. Instead, this dude is shining his shoes. It's disgusting. I'm sorry.
I mean, you also have to understand what happened under Bush's watch, right? The largest terrorist attack in US history happened under his watch. Like, so yes, there are the war crimes. People very rightly bring that up and criticize him for it. But just the amount of failure during the Bush administration toward the American people in like what Republicans claim they do best, they're the best at national security. They're the best at keeping people safe. Bush and Cheney did everything but that. And there are different ways to interpret what Bush said, right? So maybe one, I would say, generous interpretation is that, Bush thinks that he can read the tea leaves and really genuinely believe that someone like Bernie Sanders had absolutely no chance of beating Donald Trump, which I don't believe at all. And if you do give him that more generous interpretation, just consider how incredibly dumb George Bush was, okay? All the people who are, but for all the people who are now helping to rehabilitate his reputation, don't forget how disastrous his policies were both abroad and here in the United States. And don't forget how easy it is to make a compilation video highlighting just some, not all, just some of his stupid moments in his 8 years in office. Let's watch.
Tribal sovereignty means that.
All right, we can skip this from here. I think you got the point.
You've been given sovereignty and you're
doing is this, just reminding you. But when that black commentator dropped that, the white woman, she wasn't ready for that. That was a little bit more than she expected from him. You feel what I'm saying? But he was right, because it was her. And I listened to them a lot during the woman, TYT. I listened to them a lot as we was going through what we was going through with the last administration. And sometimes I could stomach it, sometimes I could vomit, because sometimes it was too much. And the way they did that with the war criminal piece and all of that, it was a little bit funky. And those are the things that we have gone through, but we have come into this here. But I remember when Clinton ran for president and Sanders was in the game. But there was certain polls that said that Sanders having a better chance of beating Trump than she did. And in this time, Sanders was where he was, but in Iowa when the little trick with the computers and the technology confused the Democrats. And Biden didn't register nowhere. Sanders got flushed down the toilet. So, Amari, I just sent something once again that ain't on the list. So if that piece came through about Sanders, let's show that too. See, that's what the spirit does. That's why you have to be prepared. So you can have a piece of paper. And I ain't talking to you, baby girl. Sister, oh, I'm sorry, man. I said, baby girl, she gonna have a fit. She gonna be calling me, talking about, how do a person my age be a girl? Don't mean no harm. See how this paper works? The paper is here, but the spirit showed me something just as I was walking in here. The Bernie Sanders piece is something that I was not gonna use, but I have to use it now because the brother articulated it. And you need to see this because we are going to experience some things in a minute. And then you're gonna think about how you, the Negro, played yourself. All right, Omari, thank you, sir. Let's roll this out.
If we lose the Senate, do you know who becomes the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee?
In 2016, Paul Ryan said Republicans should be scared of Democrats controlling the Senate because Bernie Sanders would be the budget chair.
A guy named Bernie Sanders, you ever heard of him?
Bernie's budget, Bernie Sanders speaking out on spending priorities.
The Senate Budget Committee is really one of the most powerful in Congress because it controls the money.
Sanders has been creating a new stimulus package that could include an emergency universal health care program so that anyone can get medical treatment during the pandemic, whether they currently have insurance or not.
We are proposing to raise the minimum wage so that people can earn a living wage. The American people are hurting very badly. What do the American people want, Lindsay? They want us to create jobs. They want us to rebuild a crumbling infrastructure and create millions of jobs. We now have the opportunity to move this country forward with a very different set of priorities.
Sanders has no problems being loud and bold.
Bernie is a man of his convictions.
I think the job of many of us is to keep banging away over and over again and ask why it is that we end up having millions of people sleeping out on the street.
My friend Bernie Sanders, I can think of no more passionate, devoted ally to working people in this country.
Senator Sanders says that he will use budget reconciliation process to boldly address the needs of working families.
We're talking about moms trying to feed their kids, people worried about being thrown out on the street.
The landlord here has started an eviction process against us.
Never thought I'd be in this situation ever.
I have no money for rent.
If we get kicked out of our house, where are we gonna go?
1 out of 4 corporations doesn't pay a nickel in taxes. We are going to start to tax the wealthiest people in this country and the largest corporations. We just voted the largest military budget in the history of this country, $740 billion. The Pentagon can't even do an independent audit. There's an enormous amount of waste in that budget, but no one worries about that. But when it comes to the mom and dad who are struggling to put food on the table for their kids, oh my God, we're worried about the deficit.
I need help because I'm about to be homeless.
What our job has got to be is to bring people together around an agenda that is in fact supported by the vast majority of the American people.
As if things couldn't be going worse for the Republican Party after effectively being shut out of power in Washington for at least the next 2 years, now yet another one of their worst fears will soon be coming true. Bernie Sanders will be the next chairman of the powerful Senate Budget Committee. In this highly coveted position, Senator Sanders will exercise significant authority over legislation that involves taxing and spending in the federal government. So quite a broad range of responsibilities. Additionally, given the fact that as Minority Leader Mitch McConnell will still be able to use the filibuster to slow down or stop many bills, at least until the Democrats decide to potentially do away with the filibuster altogether, Bernie will be instrumental in the process of passing major legislation using a maneuver known as reconciliation, which allows legislation that involves budgetary concerns to be voted on with a simple majority of the Senate, which, with Vice President-elect Kamala Harris serving as the tie-breaking vote, the Democrats will have. So Bernie Sanders has found himself in a very, very important position at an incredibly important time. His role as chairman of the Senate Budget Committee will also put him in the driver's seat when it comes to crafting and advancing legislation to address income and wealth inequality, his signature issue for the past 4 decades and an ongoing crisis in the United States and around the world. Now that the Democrats hold a power trifecta in Washington with the House, Senate, and the White House, the pressure is going to be on to deliver some real reforms. The last time that Democrats were in this position was from 2008 to 2010 during President Obama's first term. And safe to say that there were some issues with what came after that. But this isn't 2008. And the Democratic Party, it would appear, has come to terms with the fact that the Republican Party does not seek to compromise with them to find solutions for the American people. It's painfully clear that any progress that gets made in this country, whether it's on health care, COVID relief, or climate change, is going to come from Democrats leveraging their power to make it happen. And to help this process along, there is no better person to have at the helm of the Senate Budget Committee than Senator Bernie Sanders.
Now, you see, to those of you that can appreciate information,
Biden is.
I think these type of clips are good for that. Because all of what has been said and done. Now, here we are. The person that could have been president 4 years ago, the media and the system flushed him down the toilet. The person that might have been president now, the media and the system flushed him down the toilet. You thought he was too this, he was not enough that. And plus, he might be, even I won't say it, a liberated Negro. But I'm not going to sit here and say about his religious affiliation. I'm going to use it like that. See? So they might hate Bernie Sanders type more than they hate the Negro type. You feel me? Oh, yeah, I'm going to bring it. But now, here he is. Might be the one that the Democrats and the Republicans are being forced to take. But there's another element, the element of filibuster. Now, as we go through these clips, we are being directed to a way of thinking that I know that some of us might not yet be ready for, but there's nothing to say about Trump now, in my opinion. He's gone. He's done. It's over with. Now you have, let's listen to Carson and see what we really have. Yes, sir, Brother Omari.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Inauguration Day. It's a big moment for the country. The changing of the guard, a peaceful transfer of power, another reassuring display of the awesome pageantry of constitutional government. There were solemn speeches today, sworn oaths, belted anthems, all echoing against the backdrop of 26,000 smartly attired federal troops who are guarding our capital city from unseen threats. It was quite a display. It was all a lot to take, really. So like many of you, we flipped on the tube to see what it meant. And here's what we learned.
Joe Biden respects government. He respects people who disagree with him. He listens to them.
I think that Joe Biden is going to train us to see the world differently.
He plans to usher in a new era of hope and the action he's promising the minute he takes office.
We've gone from indecency to decency.
He filled that empathy void.
There was not one part of that that wasn't just medicine in the wound.
Those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town.
So to recap, Joe Biden respects people's differences, but at the same time, he's going to train us to be very different from the way we are. He will bring hope and decency. He will fill the yawning void where our empathy should be. He is medicine. Joe Biden's arms, lean and hard from decades of empathetic labor on our behalf, will encircle us like lights from the Lincoln Memorial. And at that point, well, God knows, anything is possible. If there's a thin bead of sweat forming on your upper lip as you think about all of this, that's okay. Don't feel shame. Shame isn't necessary now. Joe Biden is here. And not just Joe Biden, Jill Biden too, Mrs. Biden, Dr. Biden. Together, the two of them, MSNBC informed us, will redeem this nation through their love. Behold.
What a story, though. What a great love story between Jill Biden and Joe Biden. It's just a different kind of marriage. This is a love match like the Obamas were. So I think that'll be healing for the country, too.
The Biden's marriage is healing for all of us, for the country. The Biden's love is America's love. Jill and Joe are the mother and father of this nation. From their loins we are born and yet reborn. May their names emerge from our lips in praise forever, and so on. That was cable news today. The funny thing is, and there are many funny things going on right now, every person with a microphone in every TV studio in America today knew the fuller truth when they said things like the ones you just heard. They knew, for example, for certain, that Joe Biden isn't well. Everyone in Washington knows that, but no one said it out loud, not a word. They withheld that news from you as they have for months. So much for speaking truth to power. On the other hand, what did you expect? You've watched the lying for years now. You know what it is. You figured out how it works. So it dawned on us today that maybe we ought to stop playing all these stupid media clips every night. It's like watching the town drunk throw up on himself over and over again. Obviously, it's repulsive and shocking. It's hard to turn away. But can you really be surprised by it? Throwing up on themselves is what town drunks do. If you keep watching them as they do it, maybe after a while you are part of the problem. Maybe so. In any case, we flipped off CNN and decided to check out Joe Biden's speech for ourselves. And it was interesting, actually, both for what it said and for what it didn't say. One particular part of this speech stuck out especially. Now, we didn't support Joe Biden for president. You probably guessed that. But if we're being totally honest here, and we want to be honest, we have to say it was very hard to disagree with this specific part of the address. Watch.
On this January day, my whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause. With unity, we can do great things, important things.
Bringing America together, Biden said, uniting our people, uniting our nation, to which we said as we watched it, and we meant it when we did, amen, unity. That is precisely what this country needs more than it needs anything. We are all in this together, every single American, and we have no choice but to hang together. Let's finally accept that we are one country and act like we are, and make this a better place for everyone. Unity. No decent person opposes that. If Joe Biden can bring unity to this country, he will be a legitimately great president. But there's a catch. There always is a catch. We're going to bring America together, Joe Biden told us today, but not everyone is going to be included. Unity doesn't mean every single American, because not everyone who is born within our borders really is an American. Some of us are beyond the pale of citizenship morally. We may have American passports and birth certificates, but effectively, we are hostile foreigners. We are the enemy. We must be defeated. Here's who Joe Biden says those people are.
A rise of political extremism, white supremacy, domestic terrorism that we must confront and we will defeat.
We will defeat political extremists, domestic terrorists, white supremacists. Those are America's enemies. We must wage war against them. We must, quote, defeat those people. That's what Biden said today. It seemed like a highly significant part of his speech, and maybe a significant part of the Democratic Party's governing agenda going forward. We're not imagining this. We weren't the only ones who noticed it. People who voted for Joe Biden heard it too. Watch.
I heard a declaration of war against white supremacy and against the lies that brought our democracy to the brink. And President-elect Biden will inherit an unprecedented domestic security crisis.
A declaration of war against white supremacy. Now, you may not have noticed that because on one level, it's not very remarkable. Not many Americans support white supremacy. Most people in this country find it disgusting, of course, and they should. But the question is, what is it exactly? Now that we're waging war on white supremacists, can somebody tell us in very clear language what a white supremacist is? That's not some picayune semantic question. Joe Biden isn't a high school debate coach. Joe Biden is the new president of the United States. Joe Biden controls the largest military and largest law enforcement agencies in the world. He has now declared war. So we should know specifically and precisely who exactly he has declared war on. We have a right to know that. Innocent people could be hurt in this war. They usually are. There could be collateral damage in this war, and the casualties will be Americans. So again, what is a white supremacist? You might be surprised to learn just how broad the definition for that has become. Bloomberg News has described a wall along our southern border as, quote, a monument to white supremacy, so be certain not to support that. Colin Kaepernick, who seems to have the unequivocal support of corporate America, calls the 4th of July an example of white supremacy. So you'd better put away the fireworks and the hot dogs. The United States Army, a trusted institution if there ever was one, has used an entire manual on what is and what is not white supremacy. So you should know this. Among the telltale signs of a committed white supremacist are these: celebrating Columbus Day, using the term American exceptionalism, any support for federal border security or English-only measures, or, quote, education funding from property taxes, all white supremacy. Using the phrase there's only one human race is white supremacy too, according to the Army. And of course, voting for Donald Trump, all white supremacy. Here's the problem. Let's say you don't buy those definitions. Let's say you're, for example, white but poor, and you have trouble accepting the idea that you're benefiting from some kind of structural advantage. Well, you better shut up about it if you know what's good for you, because according to the United States Army, the, quote, denial of white privilege is a classic sign of, yes, white supremacy. So no complaining. You can see the problem with this. We definitely can see the problem. This show was not on the air for 6 months before there was an organized and highly aggressive campaign by prominent Democrats to denounce us as white supremacists. The first time it happened, the people who work on this show, many of them kids, were shocked and horrified by that. White supremacists? What's worse than that? The phrase evokes images of burning crosses and lynchings. It's awful. In our case, it was totally undeserved. This show is completely opposed to the practice of judging people on the basis of their skin color. We have said that repeatedly every week for 4 years. No show in all media has said it more or meant it more sincerely. Why have we said that? Why are we opposed to judging people on the basis of their race? Not simply because we were taught to oppose doing that, though we were, but because it's immoral. And it's immoral because we believe in God. That's the real answer. Believing in God doesn't make you a good person, unfortunately. But believing in God does answer the question of where we came from. God made us. That's what believers believe. Once you understand that, it is impossible to think that any one race is inherently better or worse than any other race, because God made every person. God assigns identical moral value to every individual. God cares about all of us equally. So we are judged by what we do, not by how we were born. We really believe that. Most Americans really believe that. It's not an accident that Martin Luther King was a Christian minister and that Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong were not. Secular leaders are the ones most likely to count their populations by race and then to embrace collective punishment. Through history, they often have. We've said all of that before on the show many times. So the question is, why have they kept denouncing us as, of all things, white supremacists? We've thought a lot about that. You should think a lot about it too, now that the Biden administration has declared war on people they claim have white supremacist ideas. In our case, it all started when we began criticizing the people in charge. Other channels fill their air with attacks on so-called Proud Boys, whoever they are, or the QAnon enthusiasts, or gun owners in central Pennsylvania who fix air conditionings for a living and tend to vote the wrong way. They go after those people, and you can see why. Attacking those people isn't hard. None of them have real power. They don't. Let's be honest, they don't. But private equity does have power, a lot of power. So does Google, so does Citibank, so does the government of China, so does even silly Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez with her massive social media accounts. Those are the people who run our country, and they don't like to be criticized. On the other hand, they don't care to defend themselves directly with reason and fact. Often they can't do that. So instead they denounce you, your critics, their critics, as white supremacists, and then they just ignore what you say. Fine. We've dealt with this for years. We're used to it. It no longer hurts our feelings. We understand what's going on. But there's a new regime in power starting today, and they seem to be planning to accelerate things dramatically. They're getting the FBI and the Pentagon involved in this hunt for people who may criticize them. That's a very big change, and you should understand what it's really about.
Now, see, let me just say this. You thought you was in the frying pan. Now you just gonna be over the flame. Think about the vaccine piece. This administration say they would use FEMA and the National Guard. And they will do what they will be doing in order to try and vaccinate a large number of people within the first 100 days of his administration, him being Biden. Now, that's interesting. FEMA and the National Guard. We just saw how they used the National Guard on Inauguration Day. All of this confusion and so forth from the media. that the country was finna be in civil war. And then they took what happened a couple of weeks ago at the Capitol and they just blew it up and da-da-woo-woo. Other than Portland, where they was already in some type of conflict with the federal government, I haven't heard too much about any real live problems. I know it wasn't what happens in our neighborhood anytime something happened, particularly between the police and maybe not a criminal. No stores burnt down, to my knowledge, like that. No rioting, no looting, to my knowledge, like that. You see the difference? Yeah, I will play this type of material. And yeah, I do not care. Or should I say, no, I do not care who the audience is. Although that man was white, he was still speaking truth, whether you want to hear it or not. So if you don't want to hear the truth that we present, keep it moving. This is CAN TV. You understand? Chicago Access Network for people like me to be able to speak on it. You used to could call in and speak on it too, but right now you can't because of a pandemic. That means that I got to do more. That means that Amari is got more work to do because he's helping facilitate in behalf of CAN TV a person like me who want to reach and go to the edge. You heard the message about Bernie Sanders. You heard Carson. Now I know that was not Negro comfort messages. And then you heard the brother about Claiborne. Now you love that. Because you love the part where this brother called him basically a derogatory label. That's what you love. That's what you want to hear. But you don't want to hear the real reality. You want to hear fake news. That's because the media told you that's what Trump said, fake news. But maybe, maybe it is fake news. Maybe it is manipulation. Because just like Carson said, many people have been telling you for a long while that there is an issue with the health of this new president. They told you that. And then they stopped. Who was they? The media. I ain't gonna even go there. I almost started talking about his son, but I ain't gonna do that. Because I don't want to bring in no contamination. But just watch and follow. Now, there's two pieces going to be here. They're only headlines. One of them going to say something about 17 executive orders that Biden signed on the first day. And then another one going to talk about the part of it that you would think had to do with equity for Negroes. But as you read it, you will see that they talking about people of color. So those of you that like this little people of color, that don't mean the Negro gonna get nothing because they done already told you. Y'all ain't getting no reparations. Hell, we ain't gonna give y'all that. We're gonna give that to the 11 million people we letting in here. So let's just think about what's happening here. I ain't got time to read all of it. We was gonna stroll it down. No, you need to just go figure it out for yourself. We told you what it is. One of them is, what did he do on the first day? Which are the 17 pieces? You can find that. Google it. If you want to. Or just, disregard it. But you might want to know. And then that part about what they going to do for the Negro. Well, didn't seem like it had any substance to me. But I do know that the Negro went to the last administration a few times. And the historical Negro colleges ended up with a 10-year process of being funded. That didn't happen on the administration before the last one. But that's the one you hated. That's the one you say was a liar. And he might have been all of that. But one thing, in my opinion, he was not on Inauguration Day. He was not a hypocrite like so many of us are. Oh, I include myself in that. Because some things I'm not going to be consistent with either. Because life allows for inconsistency. Sometimes life even dictates inconsistency. And what you finna see now is something where you need to pay attention to. You think the Democrats being in control of both the House and the Senate means something? Remember, they was like that in the administration before Trump for the first couple of years. So the next couple of years, they will be in that position. But there's a trick to that. Now, one of the things I just want to suggest is this here. We must pay attention. But don't think that it's going to be all rosy. Now, I want you to look at this picture and this headline. Although you think it's all over with, it ain't. What do that say? Senate Republicans can shut the door on immigration reform with filibuster. I hope they do. I hope they do. That means that he might use executive orders. He might do what he do. But those same people that was doing what they was doing still can block. And he gonna do just what his predecessor did. I'm talking about the one he worked with before. He is gonna be given exemption by the Negro. Oh, you can't expect him to do this. You can't expect them to do that. Like I heard some Negro talking about this woman, the vice president. Oh, we can't push her. We can't expect too much from her because she won't be able to. You ain't said none of that about Pence, what he wouldn't be able to do. But you said it about Obama, what he couldn't do because he was colored. You said it about her because she colored. But she done told you, it ain't got nothing to do with me being colored. It's got to do with you being colored. It's got to do with you being a descendant of a slave. That's what she told you. That's why I'm not going to get you reparations, because anything we do got to help everybody and not just those that built this country with free labor. Hell yeah, I'm going there. You say, well, who you talking to? Why don't you just talk? I'm talking to your mind because I know what you be thinking. I know what you be saying in your house. I know what you be sitting there when you hate on a Negro that will spit it the way it is. That's why I echo and re-amplify your thought. Your thought is, leave her alone. No, we already seen what happened with those type that you leave alone. All of us are hybrids. But we, the Negro, is the only one that's had this type of power that has not been the product of an immigrant. We might be hybrids, but we was brought here in bondage. We were not brought here by parents looking for a better way of life. So don't sit here and make excuses for her, because she might be president. Because Biden told you he chose her because she would be able to hit the ground running, because he know he got health issues. So she's going to probably be your first dark-skinned president. But she's not a descendant of American bondage. Maybe what happened in Jamaica, but her daddy was an aristocrat in Jamaica. He's still an aristocrat. So I ain't gonna get into none of that, but I wanted to just throw it out there. So look forward for the filibuster. Look forward to the fact that now you're gonna be making excuses that they doing it because of her, and they don't want her to look good. Go somewhere with that foolishness, Negro. Don't nobody want to hear that foolishness. That's what you did for 8 years before Trump. Made excuses. And dude got away with damn near doing nothing for the Negro. Don't let that happen this time. Now, I think there's a press secretary, from this administration. We ain't gonna play all of that, but I want you to listen how they already planning. Now, if this was the last administration, press secretary, y'all be talking crazy as hell. But listen to what she's saying and how she's speaking loud.
Who say we just passed a stimulus plan.
Yes, sir.
They're not going to get on board with this. Mitt Romney among them, who says we just passed a program with over $900 billion, and some people say the price tag is just way too big. So how does President Biden expect to get this passed with bipartisan support, and how does that fit into his broader message of bipartisanship, proposing something like this that's that big?
Well, I think it fits perfectly into his message of bipartisanship. He wants to work with Democrats and Republicans to address the crises that the American people are facing, whether they live in red states or blue states or Democrats or Republicans. The package was designed based on recommendations from health experts, from economists. It's been applauded by everyone from Senator Bernie Sanders to the Chamber of Commerce. And there are specific pieces in there that are meant to serve as a bridge for the American people, including a large percentage of it that's for unemployment insurance, funding for vaccine distribution, something that is pivotal, as we've already been discussing here today, for reopening of schools. So part of the discussion we'll be having with members is what do you want to cut? And this is a plan that he feels addresses the crisis at the moment.
Quick follow-up on that. The work of the Senate is being held up by this dispute over the filibuster. Where does President Biden come down on that? Does he think that there should not be a filibuster so that the Senate could move forward with its work?
Well, the president-elect spoke just yesterday, as you all saw, about the spirit of working together and bipartisanship to confront the 4 crises facing us. You've already seen him work with Republicans and Democrats and work toward a bipartisan approach to passing packages that will address the crises we're facing. And that certainly is his priority and his preference. So that's what he'll continue to work on day 2 of the administration. Go ahead, Mike Scheer.
Okay, see, you can call her.
I just gave you a hard time. Go ahead.
That's fine. So I want to push you a little bit more on that question. Like if there's this call for unity that the president made in his speech yesterday, but there has so far been almost no fig leaf even to the Republican Party. You don't have a Republican cabinet member like President Obama and I think President Clinton had. The executive orders that he's come out the gate have been largely designed at erasing as much of the Trump legacy as you can with executive orders, much of which the Republican Party likes and agrees with. You've put forth an immigration bill that has a path to citizenship but doesn't do much of a nod towards the border security, and you've got a $1.9 trillion COVID relief bill that has, as folks have said, already drawn all sorts of criticism. Where is the actual action behind this idea of bipartisanship, and when are we going to see one of those sort of substantial outreaches that says this is something that the Republicans want to do too?
Well, I guess what I would send back to you, there's a lot in there, so let me do my best here. But Mike, is unemployment insurance only an issue that Democrats in the country want? Do only Democrats want their kids to go back to schools? Do only Democrats want vaccines to be distributed across the country? We feel that package, he feels that package is designed for bipartisan support. I will also say that we have also had some positive developments on our confirmations and our nominees. Last night, as you all saw, the president's nominee, now confirmed first female leader of the intelligence community, was confirmed with a vote of 84 to 10. You can check me on that, but an overwhelming vote. We've seen progress today on the nomination and hopeful confirmation of Lloyd Austin. So there is movement supported by both sides of the aisle and members of both parties. I think if you talk to Democrat or Republicans on the Hill, which I know many of you do, they will say they're not looking for something symbolic. They're looking for engagement. They're looking to have a conversation. They're looking to have a dialogue. And that's exactly what he's going to do. Go ahead.
Now, it's interesting. It's interesting. Talking in circles and really not saying nothing. It's just that there's been a change. But the tone and some of those reporters might have been setting themselves up to become targets. Because if indeed the powers that be determine that those type of questions are not to be asked, then those people would become labeled as certain people was labeled under the other administration. So I think one of the things we have to watch And one of the efforts of this process that we do, we speak on it, is to facilitate a type of, not necessarily street level perspective, but a regular person's perspective that's above the slave mentality. See, so many Negroes are still locked in the slave mentality. So many Negroes still want to be taken care of. Like I see some people, man, I want my $1,400. Man. And they just told you. Some of the people already, the Republicans already saying, look here, we just passed the $9 billion stimulus. Now you want us to go into redoing that so you can get the $1,400 and some more. Yeah, we would like for you to take that money that you give into all these other countries and can on and give it to the people here. And if that means that we can get $1,400, yeah, we want the $1,400. I say that, yeah. But then I have worked my whole life and still work. No, I did not fake and get some of that bailout money that I had an organization. You know what I'm saying? Or a business. No, I did not get a grant. But those people, a lot of those people that didn't have no business got grants. A lot of those people that didn't have no business got loans. Now, a lot of people sending cards right now for unemployment benefits got millions. Feel me? So now you think you got $1,400 coming and you done got $600. So me, I, as a person that worked his whole life and still worked and is a full-fledged senior citizen, understand me? You getting $1,400 and you ain't worked and you getting $600 more for unemployment or not? And X amount for every kid you got, and you ain't paid no taxes, you ain't did nothing but say, I won't. Woo! You lucky. I ain't the president, because you had to show me a check stub. You couldn't just say, I want it. What did you do? You getting reparation. And you just like your damn ancestors. Every ancestor, every slave was not worthy of pay, because some of them got stolen, but some of them was actually captured by the Africans to get them out of Africa because they was breaking down the society where they were. So they sold them to the slave master in order to get rid of them. And that DNA is still here in America today. A lot of y'all are nothing but slaves. You will never be nothing but a slave. So stop acting like you're entitled to something. You ain't entitled to nothing until you produce something. You say, well, why are you talking to us like that? You ain't no us. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking from the voice and the depth of the ancestral soul. I ain't like to talk about the soul of America. I'm talking about the soul of the true Negro slave. The one that want a Negro to be president. They want a Negro to be vice president. One of us, not just a damn immigrant that's in the color of us. You don't want to hear that. I don't care what you want to hear. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, okay, you have settled again. And you want to make all of these excuses that everything is good enough as long as it's colored. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. It ain't good enough as long as it's colored. When their mama was raped by the slave master and made a mulatto. No, I'm not blaming the mulatto. I'm not blaming the offspring, but I am saying that many times that mulatto was never a field hand, and he became the slave master. And that's what's happening, and that's what's been happening in a lot of these little fake groups you got that you go to college and you become that. Y'all was the most discriminatory back in the day. So let's just keep it real. Say, well, man, why you going with this? I'm going with this because, doggone it, this is what I feel like. This is what I want to go with. And once again, I ain't got no gat making you sit there. But what I do say is this, and I appreciate it. If you got a comment, you know what I'm saying? I'm open to it. But what I've learned looking on Facebook, you know what I'm saying? I ain't particular about reading it because I really don't care about your comment. Keep it to yourself or go get your own program because I don't care what you got to say about what I'm saying because somebody need to say it, as far as I'm concerned, what I'm saying. Why? Because we have the tendency to act like and to pretend that we are greater than one another. And no, you ain't greater than me. And I'm not greater than you. I will not bow down to you because you see a piece of paper. Just because I got a PhD, earned the PhD, yes, I got it. That don't mean that my mind was broken. I don't have to walk around, look around, and try to be sophisticated and try to be sedity and try to bring you something in the way you want to see it. No, I don't. I can declare that a dude like me from the streets that got it because of the blessings of God and the ancestors and the other things that I believe in. That's how I got it. So now that I got it with their help and their blessing, I'm going to speak the way they speak through me. And I say that because because one of the things the sister said, I said, well, you know, I've been holding back because, and you saw that man that was talking about Bernie Sanders. You saw how he was pausing at his talk. And you've noticed, I've told you all over and over, Amari has even noticed it. I've been holding back. I've not been fluent. No, I haven't. I've been careful. And I have punctuated my speech. Why? Because I was trying to not sound too raw, trying not to sound too passionate. Why? Because I know how sensitive the Negro is. And I thank the sister for mentioning it. And then she said, well, you need to stop holding back because the way you sounded, you know, I'm wondering, are you all right? Woo! I was trying to gauge my words. So in other words, I was being hypocritical. That's the word. But that's what I said earlier about Trump. He was not a hypocrite on Inauguration Day. He did not come there and pretend to be okay with that. He went on about his business. So that was not a lie. But I ain't heard y'all talking about the fact that he wasn't the type of hypocrite you are. He knew they didn't want him there. He knew he didn't want to be there. A lot of other people wasn't there, but they wanted to be there. And a lot of people was there, but they really didn't want to be there. Feel me? So sometimes the one that is not a hypocrite is the one that is accused of being a liar. But there are some of us that don't bow down. And I give it to the man. He didn't bow down that day. He went on and moved around. And y'all praying that he end up in jail. Y'all praying that all type of negativity happen with him. Okay, that's your business. But be careful what you pray for others. Because sometimes the boogeyman is a boomerang. Feel me? Some folks call it karma. What else we got here, Mara? Because I think we're probably running out of time.
To receive coronavirus vaccine are now getting their second doses. NBC7's Amber Frias checked back in with a UCSD nurse who was vaccinated with the final dose just a few days ago. So Amber, how's he feeling?
We first heard from David Flores, an emergency room nurse at UCSD 3 weeks ago when he got the first dose of the vaccine. Well, this week he got the second dose and told me that his experience was a lot different.
My hips were just killing me. I had a hard time sleeping because of that. Couldn't get comfortable. My back and neck hurt, my knees and ankles.
David Flores, an emergency room nurse at UCSD, received the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine on Thursday. Unlike the first dose, this one came with side effects.
It was annoying enough that it kept me from sleeping.
Flores said that a lot of his coworkers shared similar experiences. So we reached out to Dr. Edward Kachai, an infectious disease specialist at UCSD.
That's something that we observe from clinical trials, because when people receive the second dose, they are receiving the additional booster to try to protect the maximal efficacy to get to the 90% of the protection with the vaccine. So by boosting the immune system, in general, some people develop a little bit of perhaps more fatigue, muscle aches, joint pains, low-grade fevers, that usually last 24 to 48 hours.
According to Pfizer, about 3.8% of their clinical trial participants experienced fatigue as a side effect, and 2% got a headache. Moderna says 9.7% of their participants felt fatigued, and 4.5% got a headache. But regardless of the side effects, Dr. Kachai says it is extremely important that patients get the second dose of the vaccine.
So whenever you receive the first shot, Amber, you are protected only approximately 51%. So you need that second dose to be protected 95% against the COVID-19.
So despite the joint pain, Flores says there is no doubt he made the right decision in moving forward with the vaccine.
And it's a lesser of two evils. Just being sick for a day or so and being either dead or being sick for weeks or months, that's a pretty good trade-off.
Dr. Kachai adds that patients don't reach maximum immunity until 10 to 14 days after that second dose of the vaccine. And remember, maximum immunity is 95% on the Pfizer vaccine. Amber Frias, NBC7.
According to UC San Diego officials, they have already given the vaccine to about 10,000 employees, many of whom have already started receiving that second dose. They say only 3% of their employees, though, have declined to take it.
Now, we're going to actually end with the piece that says vaccines. We're going to use that piece. This is one of the leaders over in Zambia, and he is going to say something that is powerful. And that is that some of the medications that come into Africa has on it, do not use in the UK, do not use in America, do not use with white folk, only use with Africans. Now, we just heard that. And next week, we will continue with this piece of paper. The things that we didn't get today. Yeah, we will. And we'll add some things. But I want to end with this piece on the vaccine piece because there's a piece connected with it from Minister Farrakhan. And a lot of people, want to use somebody as a scapegoat. Yeah, that's the piece right there. So we're going to listen to this piece. And, in this piece, they will say that the people in Africa are listening to Farrakhan. I don't know who's listening to who. But let's just listen to this. But I'm not here trying to discourage people to take the vaccine. I'm here because of the fact that there's a lot of different reasons people don't want to take the vaccine. At the end of the day, you have to make that decision for yourself, and I guess for those that are closely associated with you. But let's listen to this, and maybe it'll address what I'm looking for, Omari.
Every one of you that's pregnant, when the baby is born, they want to take the baby and give it a shot.
That's right. Yes, sir. Right.
I have my medical, come, Brother Thomas, please. He looks after me. He's a paramedic, and he travels everywhere I go, and he makes sure that if anything happens to me, he can get me started until I can get to a proper hospital. But he just had a baby girl. She's a year old now?
Yes, sir.
A beautiful black baby girl. The minute the baby was born, they came to give it a shot. He wasn't asleep. He was in the room with his wife. And he said, "You're not giving my baby no shot." They waited and came back to take the baby. That's when the black man rose. You'll be in the hospital bed next to my wife if you touch my baby. Fight for the life of your children, or you're not worthy to have a child. Some of these babies now are coming up with autism, ADD, attention deficit disorder, and they got a needle for your baby, which is a small dose of cocaine or heroin called Ritalin. They're killing us without our knowledge. So when you have your child, you guard that child. And they're going to tell you, oh no, it's just a vitamin K. Meaning a vitamin to kill. Fight for your child's life. You have no right to trust them. Because they call themselves doctor or nurse. Well, my nurse was black. She white. She's a black white woman. You got to know what you're dealing with when you deal with a colored person. You've been made into them. So you lie just like they do. And they'll teach you how to lie to your people. And you'll be thinking you're doing the right thing by obeying them. They may say, well, if you don't take this vaccination, your child can't go to school. Thank you very much. We've been wanting to get the hell out of your school a long time. But we see the Negroes that you made with your education.
Well, the one I was looking for, looked like they took it down. They do that sometimes.
President Joe Biden,
because
it's weird
that
to say
piece
it,
was different than that piece. That piece will work for now. And it's no major, because the message is the same. But before we end, I want to say something about this piece here. We did a show, but you know, sometimes you hear me talking about, I can't hear woo-woo. Sometimes technology do what technology does. Now, this is a piece we did, but you won't see that show. So I'm gonna have to redo what was there. But it was a show dealing with the work of the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force. A task force created by LaShawn Ford a few years ago to address some of the issues, the epidemic of heroin and opioid addiction in his district. And the Austin Voice newspaper engaged a lot of young people to assist them in the distribution of the paper. But they had the New Year's edition. So they had two different artists. And these two different artists somehow came up with a theme. And I don't know if you can see the theme that good here with the vaccine. One with a boy, one with a girl. And it's what was on their mind at the time as we was coming into 2021. Their theme reflected each other. And if you could see it closely, you would see that the boy needle is big as an ice pick, because I guess he got tough skin. No reflection on the artist. And the girl needle is more delicate. You say, well, what has that got to do with it? What it's got to do with it is this. Some of us got delicate, sensitive skin. Some of us got thicker skin. But whatever skin you got to live in that skin. But this vaccine might be what some of us need. And then there will be others that say, I ain't going. But these young people here, these two artists, they did an excellent job, in my way of thinking, expressing what they saw coming from the mind of their generation. Probably a basic fear of a decision that has to be made about living or dying. Now, the reason that's connected to the West Side Heroin Opioid Task Force is because they already live in a community that's plagued with death, drugs, and violence. And now they got another decision to make. And that decision is about a vaccination. Think about what will happen when time allows us to reflect back on the period we have experienced and are experiencing with this pandemic. But it's changing the way we think. It's got us fearful of life. We can't enjoy life. We can't enjoy the breath we take because we're thinking about the death that's lingering and lurking right here. So you got to think about what you're going to do. The masks, the social personal distancing, all of that's good. But then you need to go online. I might even bring something 1 week and look up the yellow fever from back in the day. It was a condition that it took a while, over 80 years, for them to get a serum to deal with it. That was a disease where you would be alive, but you look dead, and it was burying a lot of dead bodies that were still alive. So in that time, they added the bell to the coffin. And they had the bell on the outside of the coffin and the strain inside in case you woke up. You could pull the bell. Maybe you'd be saved. You say, well, that was a long time ago. No, but it took them 80 years to find a serum, a medicine. 80 years. Now here it is with this pandemic. Because of Trump, they have a vaccine in less than a year. You understand me? So you don't have to give him credit for that. But suppose it was going to take 80 years. So with the vaccine, whatever is happening with it, it ain't going to be 80 years, but it could affect you 80 years later. But then again, it might allow you to live 80 years. So there are serious things we have to take into consideration right now. And we're going to try to help you facilitate that, not for my need, but for the need of peace. So until next week, Alafi, peace and good health.